my friend, and welcome to the Burned Out to Badass podcast. My name is Ellen Schinke, at Coach Ellen on Instagram, and this is my monthly podcast where I am committed to giving you short, no BS episodes to help you, the busy, burned out professional and entrepreneur, find your balance and take back your life from burnout. Let's do this. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the first real episode of the Burned Out to Badass podcast. I am your host, Ellen Schinke, and today we are going to be getting into my anti-burnout morning routine. This is a podcast that's actually repurposed from my old podcast, and the hilarious thing is when I was listening to it and kind of the little intro I did on the previous podcast, holy shit, I was dealing with like the exact same thing this month. I was talking about those moments where, you put something on your calendar, you have a project that you're working on, you're like, I've got plenty of time to do this. And so you kind of back burner it and don't really pay attention to it for a while. And then suddenly it sneaks up on you and your world is just chaos with just the amount of stuff you have going on. That is how my month of August was. I had tons of responsibilities in my day job, tons of responsibilities in my business. It was actually the biggest month I've ever had in my business in the month of August. And that was amazing and fantastic. But I was definitely feeling the overwhelm, the overburden. I'm very much in this with you, despite the fact that I am a burnout coach and I speak on this and I coach on this. There are so many instances where I really have to get back to the basics for myself. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about my daily anti-burnout morning routine, or what I sometimes call my mindful morning. And this is something that I do absolutely, the mornings before I go to work or I'm working on my business, but I also do this on my weekends, or at least some version of this. It may not be, the whole thing, but I do some version of this on the weekends. And even when I'm away, like I may be out on vacation or spending a weekend at the lake with my family like I did earlier in August, but I'm always doing some version of this. And the reason why I am is, firstly, it helps me prevent burnout. It helps me create space in my day, and it helps me to unplug. Plus, and this is the last kind of fun bonus of this is a routine that helps me incorporate all of the 5 types of self-care, which this is something that I've talked about on Instagram. I talk about it to almost every single client. Basically, every single time I speak, I'm addressing the 5 types of self-care. And the 5 types of self-care are physical, social, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And they all have a different component, an important different component in you really managing your self-care, which is such a crucial part of managing your burnout. So this is my daily anti-burnout morning routine with kind of some of the bonus add-ons that I don't do every day, but I work in as often as possible. The first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I try my damnedest not to check social media. I get up in the morning, I do grab my phone, but I have a rule for myself that I can't check social media within the first hour of waking up. Sometimes it's harder than others, and I'm not perfect with it by any stretch, but that is always my intention and my goal is to not get on social media. Now, ideally, I wouldn't get on my phone at all, but that leads us to the next step, which is important for my emotional self-care and for my spiritual self-care. I meditate. I meditate using an app on my phone. I personally love the Calm app, though I recommend Headspace, Calm. There are a number of other great ones out there, but I meditate first thing in the morning. And I love meditation because of the fact that it is one of the only times of day that I give myself true permission to not think, not do, just be still. And it's really over the years, I've been doing it since fall 2017. Over the years, it's really helped me develop my intuition. That's probably my biggest thing that I love about meditation. I did some podcasts, which I'll go ahead and link in the show notes, about all of the really practical benefits to meditation and mindfulness practices. So I'll link those in the show notes, coachellyn.com/podcast. I'll go ahead and link those in the show notes, but I love getting that meditation. And, it's debatable as to whether or not you should do it first thing in the morning. I personally just do it first thing in the morning because that's the time of day where I know I'll get it in. There are other times of day that maybe I would want to meditate, but oftentimes when I try to move meditation away from my morning routine, it just doesn't get done. So I wake up in the morning. That's the first thing I do, obviously. I wake up in the morning. I try not to check social media for the first hour. And then I grab my phone, I grab my app, and I meditate. It's only a 10-minute meditation. Sometimes if I'm really feeling like, I want to challenge myself, or I feel like I've got an abundance of time, I'll meditate for a little bit longer. But that 10-minute meditation is a non-negotiable first thing in the morning for me. The next thing I do is I grab my Kindle and I read. And I usually aim to read a chapter, but it kind of depends on my day and my morning how long I read for. My goal is usually to do 15 to 30 minutes of reading and just aim to read a chapter in whatever book I'm reading. If you're somebody that's like, oh, this is a habit I would love to get into, once again, I encourage doing it in the morning because, again, for me, if I push this to another time of day, it just doesn't get done. However, if I incorporate it into this, I call this whole routine my mindful morning. If I incorporate it into my mindful morning, then it gets done, and it gets done consistently, and it allows me to burn through and get through a ton of books every year in a way that I otherwise wouldn't. If you need further accountability to make sure you read, head to CoachEllen.com, again, ELLYN, head to CoachEllen.com/book club and join us. This is a great place. It's a really, really inexpensive, and it's a great place to sit down if you know you want to make time to read something that's not work emails. So you can definitely join us there if this is something you want to incorporate. But that's the next step of my morning routine. I sit down without social media, hopefully for the first hour. I plug into my meditation app, I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I read. Now, that is the non-negotiable part of my morning routine, my daily anti-burnout morning routine. And I want to add in here some kind of bonus things that I also incorporate, as well as some bonus things that I've done to really make this anti-burnout. Now, disclaimer, I am an introvert, so I have a certain level of social time that really kind of exceeds my introversion threshold, if you will, that starts to feel exhausting. I personally just like a lot of intentional time in solitude. It really rejuvenates me. It really, really fills me up. And so one of the things that I've been really, really proactive about doing is to just communicate with the people in my life that used to be my ex-boyfriend, but sometimes it's also just about communicating with my family, that this is my time and I need them to just kind of let me be by myself. Don't talk to me, don't kind of interrupt me, just give me this time in my day. So maybe that's something that you need to do as well, to communicate to your significant other or to your family, hey, this is my time. You know, whether you give yourself 30 minutes, an hour, just communicating that this is my time to the people in your life can be tremendously powerful. And they will probably know the difference between just your mood of when you get that time versus when you don't. Now, if you can't do that, you have like a newborn at home or you have a number of kids that you have to wrangle in the morning. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I do believe this time is so crucial and powerful to preventing burnout that I would encourage just trying to get up a little bit earlier. It does not have to be an hour. It could be 15 to 30 minutes at the start of your day, and that's it. So communicate that boundary. That's kind of a little bonus that I want to throw in here. And then the last couple things I want to tell you that I'll do that really, really help with my burnout, particularly when I am feeling physically burned out or when I'm feeling emotionally burned out. There are a couple other little added things that I do, one of which I've been doing a lot more of lately, especially as the weather has started to become so much more beautiful. So one of the things that I do, and I do it less consistently than I used to, is I journal. That is kind of a optional part of my anti-burnout morning routine, my morning mindfulness routine, if you will. And I journal more of kind of a stream of consciousness journaling. If I have something I need to work out, I will sit down, I will put pen to paper, and I will do it. And it's incredibly beneficial, kind of coupled with the meditation, because I'm able to really, really navigate and work through some difficult emotions. I find journaling to be incredibly powerful when you're dealing with challenging, more often than not, negative emotions. And it is incredibly, incredibly helpful for that. So whether it is, I tend to do more like morning pages, which is something that is from Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. And it's basically 3 pages of journaling every morning. I used to be incredibly, incredibly disciplined about doing that. But as of late, I've found that it's been less necessary to journal every single day. So it's more like an optional thing. I try to aim for journaling once a week, but sometimes not even that happens. That's kind of one of the habits that I actually want to try to get back into. But that's kind of something you can incorporate into your morning routine as a sort of way to help with your emotional burnout, as well as maybe even your spiritual burnout on some level. So to recap, we've got our meditation, which helps with our spiritual self-care. We've got our reading, which reading is a part of mental self-care. So that's really, really helpful. Mental self-care is basically things that you do to stimulate your mind. So I read for my mental self-care, and then you might journal in the morning to give you some emotional and or spiritual self-care. And then lastly, the last thing that I sometimes incorporate in, and this is one that I've actually been doing a lot more of, is I might go for a morning walk. And I love this for so many reasons. I've been an at-home workout person for a long time. I swear by it. I love it. It's one of the most consistent ways that I can make sure I get my workout in. But at times, I want a hit of vitamin D. I want to get outside and enjoy the beautiful spring weather we're having. So I personally I'm very blessed, and I have this beautiful, beautiful walking location that I can go to that's 5 minutes down the hill from my apartment. So sometimes after I finish the, main part of my morning routine, I will drive down there and I will go walk along the water. And that is really a way that I can incorporate my physical self-care in. In fact, as I'm recording this, I spent this morning doing exactly that. I meditated, I read for a period of time, and then I made my coffee to go, brought it down to the water, and went for an almost 2-mile walk down at the waterfront. And I really do feel like it has just set my state and put me in such a great mood and given me such a vitality and vibrancy going into my day. So short and sweet this morning. It's probably one of the shorter episodes I've ever done. I had a very, very clear picture of what I wanted to deliver to you guys today. This is my daily anti-burnout morning routine. It really incorporates those 5 types of self-care, which is so, so impactful. And I highly encourage you to do something similar. It may not look exactly like this, but play around with those 5 types of self-care. Think about the ways in which you might incorporate them into your morning, and then just kind of build your perfect morning routine. Again, it doesn't have to take a ton of time, but just go about building it to give you that time in the morning to help you better manage and maybe even prevent your burnout. So with that, that's what I've got for you today. My anti-burnout morning routine. I wanted to start off some very, very tangible for you all. And I hope that you took something from this and some ideas for how to create that space in your morning so that you can really help to put yourself in that best state of mind, to give yourself that rest, to give yourself that space in your day so that you can start to ditch burnout and find your balance. If you really enjoyed this and you're enjoying the vibe and the topics of the podcast so far, I would really appreciate it if you would share the podcast with a friend. We're brand new right now, so the best things that you can do to really get this content out there is to share with friends, send them the link on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or I would really, really appreciate it if you would give the podcast a 5-star review. It really is important for helping us grow, to get this information out there, and we all know how rampant burnout is. And so anything you can do, I would really, really appreciate your help and your support. Other than that, thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time on the Burned Out to Badass podcast. Bye.